Hi, in the last video, I mentioned that the ancients asked a question, divination, also she. The tools used for divination are animal bones and turtle shells. The tool she used, it's an herb called yarrow. Are you curious? Why the ancients asked a thing would use to different divination methods? This is due to the historical background of the Shang and Shou. During the Spring Festival, 2 movies were released in China. They are Najia and Conferred God List respectively. Both of them are inspired by the Ming Dynasty novel The Romance of Fengshen. The protagonist of Najia, in The Romance of Fengshen, is one of the 4 vanguard generals of King Wu's crusade. In the list of gods, involves Daji, Shang King Shou, Ji Chang, Ji Fa and other characters. King Wu's conquest of Shou was an important war in which the Hou replaced the Shang. In the Shang dynasty, turtle shell divination was the main divination method for officials and nobles. It had a high status and authority. While divination with straw was more popular among the people, or some relatively secondary things, with a relatively low status. And the merchants believed that sacrifice was the premise of divination. And sacrifices were an important medium for communication. In the process of divination, the sacrifice of the sacrificial offering is regarded as a key step in obtaining divine guidance. Therefore, merchants attach great importance to the choice of sacrifices. In the Shang dynasty, human sacrifice was not uncommon, especially in some major events or important sacrifices. The higher the level of the sacrifice, the deeper respect for the gods was considered. So human sacrifice was regarded as the highest level of sacrifice. In real history, King Hou has a well-documented crime,
婚契绝嗣四福达
which means that Hou abandoned the ancestral sacrifices and ignored them, indicating that he ignored the sacrificial tradition. In addition, modern archaeologists found at the Yingxu site, the late Shang dynasty, that is, the period of Di Yi and Di Xin, the scale of sacrificial activities was significantly reduced. The number of human sacrifices in the sacrificial pits, sacrificial vessels became rough. It shows that during the time of Hou Wang, the importance of sacrifices decreased. Di Xin here is the king of Hou. Shou was not the official name of the Shang dynasty, but a name given by later generations after his death. They mutually confirm each other, prove that during this period, there were indeed changes in sacrifices. Scholars generally believe that sacrificial activities in the Shang dynasty were not only religious rituals, but also an important means for the old nobility to maintain power. By presiding over the sacrifices, the nobles could consolidate their status and influence. Shou Wang reduced sacrificial activities to weaken the power of the old nobility and strengthen centralization. But I think this is a game between kingship and priesthood. At this stage of social development, after what I mentioned before as Jiawei Wuxi and Zhu Di Tiantong, the secular power has been trying to separate from the priesthood. The identity of the wizard and the king became more distinct. People no longer listened to the prophecies of wizards, but sought wise rulers. If I replace the wizard and the king with religion and politics, wouldn't this problem be easier? Politics not only pursues a higher status, but also to get rid of the shackles of religion. You may not have a specific feeling about human sacrifice. Let me give you some numbers. From Pan Zheng's move to Yin, 273 years until Dixon King Hou fell, the number of human sacrifices recorded in oracle bone inscription that can be calculated reaches 13,052 people. There are 1,145 supplements. If there is at least one person in each sentence, the total number may be close to 15,000. At least one life was sacrificed for each divination. Civilization is constantly advancing. I believe at that time, more people wanted to get rid of such sacrifices. Hou didn't do it, but instead caused social unrest. Until the Hou dynasty adopted a more gentle method. The right to change religious interpretation. The term religion I use here is not entirely accurate. It's just to help you better understand. The sacrifices and divination of the Shang dynasty were actually the same as religion. It represents an idea, a social ideology that could rule people. The people of the Hou dynasty promoted yarrow for divination to change people's perception of animal bones, and turtle shells divination. Shou Wenwang's divination of yarrow systematized and theorized it, and deduced the hexagrams and hexagrams of Huyi. In metaphysics, we call this story the king of Wen performed the change of Hou. Of course, it still cannot be proved today. Wenwang Ji Chang, if he wrote Book of Changes during his imprisonment. The appearance of Huyi was a subversion of previous theology. Every hexagram of Huyi guides people to a new life. The hexagram of Qian, heaven is strong, and the gentleman should strive for self-improvement, linking natural phenomena with human behavior. Emphasizing that people should imitate nature and actively strive, and the idea is no longer that of good or bad luck, but a philosophical guide to life. I think at that time, promoting Huyi was not an easy task. It must have taken a lot of people's efforts. Finally, the Hou dynasty gradually divined yarrow as the main method of official divination, replacing turtle shell divination. On the surface, it was a change in method, but actually a subversion of previous theological divination. Humans redefined the social ideology they needed. From this perspective, on the surface, it is the replacement of dynasties, but in fact, it is a continuous progress. We all desire the same future. Of course, this substitution was a very long process. In the spring and autumn period 2,700 years ago, the ancients still used two divination methods simultaneously. But turtle shell divination at that time no longer required the sacrifice of life. I am Luan Yuan, see you next time.